Hello fam, welcome back to the channel. This is Precious Styling. In today's tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to make shorts the easy way. So watch the video to the end so you wouldn't skip any detail. Now let's get creative. As you can see, I have ruled my starting line, which represents my waistline as well. So from that point of our waistline, I'm going to be going down to mark my hip depth. So my hip depth is 9 inches. I'm just going to mark that point there. I would go down to mark my crotch depth. So my crotch depth is 11 inches. I marked that. I would go down to mark my waist to thigh measurement, and that is at 15 inches. And finally, I'm going to go down to mark my waist to the hem of the shorts at 18 inches. I would go ahead and mark those vertical measurements on the other side of my pattern paper and rule lines to connect both points. We would proceed to the next stage where we'll take our horizontal measurement. First of all, we'll be taking our hip circumference divided by 4. So this short will be a very free short. I will be using a hip circumference that is bigger than my regular hip circumference. So I'm using 44 as my hip circumference. So 44 divided by 4 is 11 inches. And I'll mark that 11 inches on the waistline. So I'll just be labeling all the key points on the pattern. This right here is my waistline. This right here is my hip line. This right here is my crotch line. This right here is my upper thigh or under butt. Okay, so we're going to be having 2 thigh points. One is the upper thigh and the other is the lower thigh, which doubles as our hemline. On the hip line, I'm going to mark that same measurement I marked on the waistline to the hip line. I'm also going to mark the same hip circumference divided by 4 on the crotch line. Now I'll be connecting those 3 points in a straight line. So guys, on this crotch line, we're going to be extending it to our crotch extension. So how do you know your crotch extension? You divide your total hip circumference divided by 16. So when I divide 44 divided by 16, I have 2.75 inches. So that is going to be my crotch extension. So I'm going to extend that crotch line to that 2.75 inches that we marked. At the waistline here, I'm going to be coming in by 0.5 inch so that area of the waist is well relaxed. And at this right angle of the crotch extension, I'm going to be coming out by 1.25 inches, and then I would be connecting that point to the 0.5 inch at the waist and to the edge of the crotch extension. I would come back to the waist, and from this inward line now, I'm going to be measuring my waist circumference divided by 4. So I'll divide that and I'm going to mark that on the waistline, and then I would add my stitching allowance to that. Now that I've done that, I'll be connecting that to my hip line. So guys, we're going to be dividing this crotch line into 2 equal parts. That comprises of the crotch and even the crotch extension. Okay, so I'm just measuring what I have there, and I'm going to be dividing that into 2, and I'll mark that midpoint there. And I'll be transferring the same measurements to the upper thigh, and I'll be ruling a line from the crotch up to the hem. Now this vertical line that we ruled is going to help us with accuracy when we want to divide our circumferential body measurements. Remember that we have 2 thigh measurements, the upper and the lower thigh. Now the upper thigh is usually more bigger or rounder than the lower thigh. Okay, so right now we're going to be dividing our upper thigh circumference divided by 4. So my upper thigh circumference is 24 inches, and if we divide that by 4, we're going to get 6 inches. So we're going to mark 6 inches on either side of the vertical line. I'll be adding 0.5 inch for seam allowance on either side of the 6 inches. At the lower thigh, I'm going to be dividing my lower thigh circumference divided by 4. My lower thigh circumference is 21 inches. So 21 inches divided by 4 is 10.5 inches. So with that 10.5 inch mark, I'll just fold my tape and get the midpoint, and then I'll just be marking it on either side of this vertical line. And I'm also going to add my 0.5 inch allowance for seam. With that being said, I'll be connecting the crotch to the point I marked on the thighs. And with this, we're done drafting the front pattern of the shorts. I'll go ahead and cut this out. Once we're done with cutting this out, we're going to head to the back pattern to draft. I already put my front pattern on my pattern paper, and we're going to be making some modifications to this front pattern in order to draft our back pattern. Okay, this is easy. So right now at this crotch line, I'm going to be extending that line outwards. Okay, what I'm basically just doing is just trying to replicate the lines of the front pattern on the back pattern paper. So after doing this, I'm also going to extend the vertical line of the waist upwards. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. At the crotch line, I'm going to be coming out by 2.5 inches because the back crotch is usually lengthier than the front crotch. If you are on the big side, you can even extend it up to 3 inches. If you're on the small side, 1.5 inches to 2 inches will do. So this varies. At the vertical line we extended upwards from the waist, I'm going to be coming up by 1.5 inches. From this point we just marked now, I'm going to be coming in by 1.5 inches. So right now we're going to be connecting this new point we marked to the new back crotch extension. So I'll be taking off my front pattern for now so I can connect these points together, and I'll be using my curved ruler to create this curve. I would be measuring my front waistline, and whatever measurement I have there, I'm going to be placing it at the peak of the back vertical extension, and I'm going to be measuring it to anywhere it falls on the front waistline. And so from this waistline of the back, I'm going to be measuring it to the back vertical extension. Okay, I'll just rule a slant line, and thereafter I'll be connecting this point to the hip line. Still adjusting the front pattern to the back pattern, I'm going to be connecting the back crotch extension to the upper thigh using the front pattern as a guide. You can do this by freehand, but I'm just going to use my curved ruler to do this. And then you can use the outline of the front to cut out the back pattern. So I'm just going to be tracing the outline of the front pattern on the back pattern as well, and then I'll take off the front pattern and connect the hem of the back pattern with the help of my ruler. So if you want, you can still go ahead and mark out the key points on the pattern so you can easily identify them. And with this, we're done with the drafting of the back pattern. So I will go ahead and cut out the back pattern. And so this is our back pattern. So guys, I have cut out my fabric using my pattern. However, I made some alterations on the fabric. So at this lower area of the hemline, I added 1 inch addition on both sides because I don't want the short to be kind of penciled at the bottom. Okay, I want it to be free. I want it to have space because that is the idea I want to create. So I also cut out a strip of fabric that is as long as my waistline, and this fabric is 5 inches wide. I'll be using this fabric as my waistband in order to turn in the raw edge of the shorts. This right here is my back pattern. So I have both fabrics placed right sides facing each other, and from the waistline I'm going to be measuring down 9.5 inches. That area would be for my zipper. So right now I will align the shorts correctly and I will begin pinning from the crotch to that 9.5 inches I marked. Okay, so I'll stitch that area down. I'll take it to my sewing machine and stitch that area down, but I won't be stitching the upper part, and the upper part would be where we would install our zipper. This right here is my front pattern, so I'm going to be doing the same thing I did for the back. I would pin from the crotch all the way up. So for the back, I went down by 9.5 inches and I didn't pin that part. I left that part open. But for this front part, I'm going to be pinning everything to the waistline, okay, because I'm going to be stitching from the waistline down to the crotch. I have stitched those areas I mentioned earlier, and you can see how the back looks like. You can see the part I didn't stitch. So this is how the front looks like. I will be stitching both sides of the shorts. I would also be stitching under the crotch, so I'm just going to pin all these areas I mentioned together because I'll be taking it to my sewing machine to stitch. As you can see, I have stitched all those areas I mentioned, but I haven't closed up the zipper area. I'll bring in the strip of fabric that we cut out earlier. So I'm going to fold the strip of fabric over, and I'm going to be using it to turn the rough edge of the waistline, okay? So this fabric is as long as my waistline, and I'm just going to fold it in the middle because I want to get the midpoint. I'm going to notch that midpoint, and I'm going to place it on the midpoint of the short, and I'm going to take it around my waistline. I have sewn the band all around the waistline, but I haven't closed up the zipper yet. This is how the front looks like, and so I would be closing the short up with my zipper. So I have the short invisible zipper. Unfortunately, I do not have the zipper in the same fabric color, but I will make do with what I have. I will take this to the sewing machine and close up the zipper area. So guys, I have closed up the zipper area with my zipper, and this is how it looks like. This is how the front also looks like, and with this we've made our short. We've come to the end of the tutorial, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Feel free to ask questions and share this video with your community. In the next tutorial, I'll be showing you how I paired this short with this shirt with a notched collar and with drawstrings at the side, so you do not want to miss that tutorial at all. This is why you need to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, as soon as possible, so you wouldn't miss out on future tutorials. I'll see you in the next video. For now, bye.